Eagles Nation, hold on tight. Big news just exploded out of Philly's preseason finale against the Jets, and it changes everything. We're talking position battles decided, shocking updates on key injuries, and yes, a major boost for one of the Eagles' brightest stars. But it doesn't stop there. New faces are stepping up, familiar names are going down, and the countdown to the season opener just got way more dramatic. It felt like a sneak peek into the chaos and emotion that's about to hit when real football begins. No starters, sure. An ugly game in moments, absolutely. But hidden inside that messy win over the Jets? Storylines that could shape the entire season. Let's start with John Mechie, making his Eagles debut only days after arriving in Philly through a trade. Imagine this. His very first snap, rookie quarterback Kyle McCord looks his way, fires a dart to the sideline, and Mechie hauls it in for 14 yards and a first down. It wasn't a touchdown. It wasn't a highlight reel play. But in that moment, it was a statement. I'm here. I'm ready. And I belong. Yes, Mechie later had a drop. Yes, he disappeared for stretches. But think about it. The kid had been in Philly less than 48 hours. New playbook, new teammates, new everything. And still, the Eagles trusted him enough to go to him right away. That says something. It says the coaching staff already sees a role for him, and once he finds his rhythm, once the nerves settle, this could be a player who makes noise when the lights shine brightest. But while Mechie's debut gave fans hope, there was heartbreak too. Johnny Wilson, the 6'6" wide receiver who had been turning heads all camp with his size and upside, is done for the year. A brutal knee and ankle injury means surgery, and just like that, a promising season is ripped away. For Wilson, it's devastating. For the Eagles, it's a huge blow. That kind of size, that kind of mismatch potential, gone. And so, in one night, the Eagles' wide receiver depth chart went from stacked to shaky. That's why Mechie's presence matters. That's why his growth matters. Because with Wilson sidelined, the Birds will need every ounce of playmaking from the guys behind A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. And that was just the beginning of the drama in this preseason finale. Eagles fans, I want to hear from you. How confident are you in this wide receiver group now that Wilson's out? Do you think Mechie can step up and earn a real role this season? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's see where Eagles Nation stands. Losing Johnny Wilson hurts badly. At 6'6" and 227 pounds, he wasn't just another wide receiver. He was a giant on the outside, a monster in the run game, and a red zone weapon that defenses had no real answer for. Last year, he punished defenders with his blocking, opening lanes for Philly's ground attack, and his size alone made him a nightmare near the goal line. That kind of skill set? You don't replace it overnight. And now, it's gone for the season. The injury is a gut punch, not just for Wilson, but for the entire offense. Fans had been buzzing about his camp, how he looked ready to take the next step, how he could carve out a real role in year two. Now, instead of celebrating his rise, we're left praying for his recovery and wondering what could have been. But football is cruel, and it never stops. The same night Wilson's setback shook the locker room, the Eagles also got news that sent a jolt of hope through the fanbase. Right before kickoff, cameras caught A.J. Brown out on the field, not limping, not rehabbing, but running hard, cutting, catching passes from Jalen Hurts. Nearly full speed. This was massive. For weeks, A.J. had been sidelined with that nagging hamstring injury, sitting out most of training camp. The fear was always the same. Will he be ready when the season starts? But watching him move, watching him explode out of breaks, it felt like a sigh of relief swept across Eagles Nation. Reports even said the team had been extremely cautious, holding him back on purpose, saving him for the real thing. And now? He could be back at practice any day, maybe even tomorrow. That means Hurts and Brown might be firing on all cylinders just in time for Week 1. And that's not the only storyline coming out of this finale. With Wilson gone and AJ working his way back, all eyes turned to the receivers battling for depth. And while many expected undrafted darling Darius Cooper to shine, the surprise star was Terrace Marshall Jr. The Oda standout came alive, leading the team with 5 catches for 51 yards. Nothing flashy, nothing jaw-dropping, but steady, reliable production when his number was called. Is it enough to lock a roster spot? Probably not, but a practice squad role? Absolutely in play. And don't underestimate that. Last year proved just how important practice squad players can be. One injury, one tough stretch, and suddenly those bubble guys become Sunday starters. On defense, Perry Nickerson might have had the highlight of the night. The veteran slot corner, fighting for a role, leapt through the air to snag a diving interception on Jets quarterback Brady Cook. Pure athleticism, pure hustle. One of the best plays of the entire game. He's likely headed for the practice squad, but that interception? It spoke volumes about his fight to stay in the league. Even Nick Sirianni praised him after the game, calling him the kind of teammate everyone respects. And then there was Montreal Johnson Jr., the undrafted rookie running back, didn't dominate the stat sheet, but he left his mark. 15 carries, 57 yards, and a tough cutback touchdown on 3rd down. That play showed vision. That play showed patience. That play said, I belong. So in one night, Eagles fans felt it all: heartbreak, hope, and a glimpse of the hungry underdogs who want to wear midnight green when the real season begins. Now I'll throw it to you, Eagles Nation. Whose performance stood out to you the most? AJ's near return? Marshall's steady hands? Nickerson's crazy interception? Or Johnson's touchdown run? Drop your take in the comments. I want to know who you think deserves a roster spot. The battle for roster spots is brutal, and in this preseason finale, a handful of Eagles made their last, desperate push to prove they belong. First up, Lewis Cine. Remember, this guy was a first-round pick just 2 years ago in Minnesota. On Friday, he showed flashes of that pedigree with a gorgeous diving interception on Jets quarterback Adrian Martinez. It was a wow moment, the kind of play that reminds you why he was once such a highly touted prospect. But just as quickly as hope arrived, it disappeared. Cine left the game with an injury, unable to put weight on his left foot. The cruel reality is that may have crushed his chance at sticking around. Then there was Dallas Gant, the linebacker who delivered one of the biggest hits of the night. With the Jets going for 2, Gant stonewalled Donovan Edwards at the goal line. One-on-one, strength versus strength, and Gant flat out won. That's the kind of toughness that gets you noticed, and while he may not crack the 53-man roster, his name just climbed up the practice squad list. Veteran Patrick Johnson reminded everyone he's still here too. A steady presence since 2021, he made his impact felt with multiple pressures and a sack. Reliable, tough, and experienced, he looks like a strong bet to keep his roster spot. But let's be real, the most exciting edge rusher of the night wasn't Johnson. It was rookie Antoine Powell-Ryland, or as I like to call him, APR, the closer. If you've been following my channel since draft night, you know how much I love this pick. At Virginia Tech, APR was a sack machine, 16 last year, 25 over the past 2 seasons. Sure, scouts nitpicked him for being undersized and having short arms. But you can't measure hunger. You can't measure that first step. And on Friday night, he showed why I've been hyping him up. After staying quiet most of camp, APR broke out. He was living in the backfield, pressuring Martinez multiple times, and then came the highlight. A beautiful strip sack off the edge, with Max Williams pouncing on the loose ball. That was the kind of play that screams future weapon. It had fans buzzing. It had coaches nodding. And it had me grinning ear to ear. Nick Sirianni even gave him love post-game, pointing out his relentless rush and how smart the defense was to scoop the ball instead of assuming it was incomplete. That's winning football. And now? APR may not just sneak onto the practice squad. He may carve out a real role down the line. But the biggest news of all, it wasn't even about who played, it was about who didn't. Several players fighting for starting spots were held out completely. That's usually a big clue. Sidney Brown, for example, didn't suit up. Combine that with Andrew Mukuba's recent hamstring injury, and it looks like Brown is officially locked in as the starting safety alongside Reed Blankenship. That's massive news for the defense. Then there's linebacker. Jihad Campbell sat out too, while Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was still on the field. And look, Trotter Jr. has had a phenomenal summer. He's flashed, he's fought, he's made a name for himself. But the writing seems to be on the wall. Campbell is your starting linebacker next to Zach Bond. It's the cruel reality of the NFL. One guy wins a job, another gets left behind. And while Trotter Jr. has every reason to hold his head high, it looks like Campbell is the man moving forward. So from interceptions to strip sacks to depth chart bombshells, this finale gave us answers, and maybe even our first glimpse of the future. The battle for starting spots in Philadelphia is getting intense, and it's leaving some tough stories behind. Linebacker Jeremiah Trotter Jr. didn't really do anything to lose his job. He's been solid, but when a first-round pick like Jeremiah Campbell shows up with that kind of talent and upside, coaches are going to lean his way. It's a tough break, but that's life in the NFL. Then there's the cornerback battle. Adoree Jackson sitting out against the Jets looked like a pretty clear sign that he's leading the race to start opposite Quinion Mitchell. But I don't think it's over. Not yet. Rookie Yokorian Bennett made his presence felt. Yes, he gave up some catches, but every single time he was right there in coverage, forcing receivers to make ridiculous, contested grabs. He didn't allow any back-breaking plays, and he also made several strong stops of his own. To me, that's a young corner fighting for his life and showing he belongs. If the Eagles are truly watching closely, Bennett still has a real shot. And while we're on roster battles, the QB3 spot just got some clarity. Kyle McCord started and played the whole game while DTR never touched the field. That says it all. McCord's got the job, and DTR's time in Philly might be running out. But let's be real, McCord struggled. He went 15 of 35, no touchdowns, 1 interception. If Tanner McKee can't get healthy soon, the Eagles' backup quarterback situation could be shaky heading into Week 1. Now the preseason's over, roster cuts are right around the corner, and the real season is almost here. The battles aren't done yet, and a few players are fighting for their football lives.